Problem. You probably get a weird voice telling you that it's been recorded.
Yep.
So Magnus, just to begin with, just so we've got your name correct for your caption, I know that's something we might not have got right in the past. Could you just give us your name and the spellings of both of them, please?
Sure, that's Magnus Hansenheiner, Magnusson-Henson-Heine.
Perfect. And what is your relationship to this sculpture?
Huh. Well, my dad commissioned it and really put it up along with sculptor John Buckley in 1986, and the Oxford City Council immediately tried to take it down. It was done without planning permission, and that was intentional, and they had done that in part so as to make this case that really the council shouldn't be deciding what kind of art people were and weren't allowed to see, and that shouldn't be down to bureaucrats or councillors fundamentally. So there was a very long battle with the council, the legal battle through the courts. Ultimately lasted about 6 years that my dad fought. He was trained as a lawyer at Balliol College in Oxford, and he represented himself. And ultimately that went all the way up to the cabinet of the national government, and Michael Heseltine's planning inspector finally decided it could stay. So I'm his son, and he passed away, unfortunately, in 2019, so a few years ago. And yeah, I sort of, before that, I took it on and bought part of it. So it's sort of part gift, part inheritance, part purchase. But I'm the owner of it, I suppose, as the house at least.
Perfect. So coming off the back of that, Magnus, obviously, considering what the sculpture stood for, and obviously the decision that was made yesterday to add it to this register, I mean, what are your thoughts and feelings on that?
Well, I think that goes against the fundamental point, or at least one of the points, which, as I mentioned before, was specifically that councillors shouldn't get to decide that. I mean, the council clearly doesn't understand art, doesn't understand the symbolism of this piece in particular. And I suppose, in a sense, this is the point in action, showing exactly that small councillors should not get to decide that. And yet here they have, and they've done that claiming to preserve or protect what is really a sort of focal point and symbolic instance of planning law defiance, using the planning laws, which is absurd on the face of it.
You mentioned obviously your dad. I mean, what do you think he would say off the back of this?
Well, I wish he was here to ask, but he definitely would not have thought very much of the meeting and how it actually played out, which was a shame. In terms of actually the listing, I had a brief conversation with him before he passed, and he was a bit conflicted, so he could see both sides of it. On the one hand, these new councillors, and again, it's a question of applying control to something that control shouldn't be applied to, and also somewhat censoring people's ability to speak and not giving them a voice consistently. But on the other hand, it's sort of, you could argue it's come full circle and it's now acceptance. But I don't think that really holds much weight, and certainly, yeah, I think undermines the point a little, with a lot.
But I think, devil's advocate is that, say, I mean, I don't know how this preservation in action would work, but on the face of it, if people would say, well, if they're preserving it and they're keeping it around, surely that's a positive thing.
Well, they're preserving the physical structure, you could argue. There's actually no threat to the structure. No one's looking to take it down, least of all me. I'm somewhat of a steward of this thing. So claiming its physical preservation is tenuous at best, but really a large part of art and the sculpture ultimately here in the Shark House is to do with the message and what people take away from it and what it represents. And ultimately, you can't claim to be preserving something while damaging that aspect of it and really the spirit of the art. And I think they have. I think they've acted from a place of ignorance and done some harm to a really beautiful and important part of the city.
And from someone who coming at this completely fresh, I mean, what is that message? What does it's a shark coming out of a house, but I mean, it's obviously got some sort of deeper meaning going on.
So there are a few points here. It was explicitly done after the bombing of Tripoli, and it represents, I suppose, on the face of it, a bomb crashing through the roof of a house. So it's an anti-bombing, anti-nuclear, and anti-war symbol. The other side was this sort of running battle about artwork and the planning laws, which was also chosen intentionally. So there's an anti-censorship side to it as well. And the third is it's a sort of surreal sculpture, which is ultimately there for people to add their own meaning to. So it has this Python-esque way of sort of breaking from what you expect to see, certainly down a street in Oxford. Hello?
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah, I'm still here. So yeah, Magnus, going forward, obviously it's been added to this register. You're probably not happy about it because it's taken away from, you know, the very point of the art. What's next for you? I mean, is it just a case, are you going to fight this, or is it just a case of acceptance?
Well, that's a good question. I'm going to look very carefully at what my options are, and I wouldn't rule anything out, but I really wouldn't comment at this stage. I'm not happy at all with what's happened. I suppose in a sense it's to be expected. As I said, if ever there was someone who shouldn't be shocked, it would be me in this context, or a council making quote unquote the wrong decision, or not giving things the proper appreciation they deserve. Yes, I don't know at this point, but I leave it there for now.
And lastly, you have just to get an idea of this sculpture and the local community as well. You must know a lot of people, you know, on the ground who live there. I mean, is it something that's, because it's obviously super unique, so is it something that's quite special to Headington, and then it's obviously something that people care a lot more about than it would be if it was just, you know, a sculpture or a house? But the fact, you know, does it hold like special meaning for the local people?
My dad would have hated use of the phrase super unique. He was either unique or it's not unique. The local people love it, clearly, like almost to a man at this point. It certainly was quite fractious or contentious at the start, but overwhelmingly it's loved, both locally for sure and even internationally. I think that does add a dimension to it. But I mean, again, some people love it just for that quality of you walk down the street and you suddenly see this striking image that sort of gives you a break from the day. And other people appreciate some of the other sort of almost political messages of it. I suspect it depends the level on which you engage with the sculpture as to where you come down. So the people who know about the anti-censorship and anti-planning law side of it and that history, I think are the ones who object to the listing most strongly. Whereas if you just love it as a shark in the roof of a house, then perhaps you don't know that side of it.
Perfect, Magnus. That's all of the points that I wanted to cover. Are you happy with what we've gone over there?
Yeah.
I'll make sure we've got your name correct as well, and appreciate the short grammatical lesson as well.
I appreciate it.
It's amazing.
If you want to go to the website headingtonshark.com to learn more about it, that would be great. And anyone wants to reach out to me, they can do it through that. And yeah, but other than that, I will continue fighting the good fight, I suppose.